I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. He was a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. All of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
Today's feature is the Stunted Growth story of the greatest number 2 ever in basketball, and also the reasons he hates that is what his legacy became, which all leads back to the guy whose shadow he's forever locked in, Michael Jordan. Over the years, I'm sure you've seen, just like I have, the shots Pippen has taken at Michael Jordan, mostly coming after the 2020 Netflix documentary The Last Dance, where Jordan shared his experience as a member of the Chicago Bulls. In the series, Scottie in particular seems to have taken the biggest issue with it being too much about glorifying Michael Jordan and not giving enough praise to he or his teammates. Most recently, he's taken the biggest shot of all at MJ, claiming he was a horrible, selfish player before he got there and made the Bulls a real team that could win, instead of a one-man army. This was as closest as Scottie has gotten to how some feel about the dynamic between Scottie and Michael, but they seem to forget that Michael had only played 3 years before Scottie got to the team, and he averaged 37 points a game and nearly 5 assists the previous season, with Oakley the only other option on a really bad team. He was still establishing himself in the NBA as a player, playing only 18 games his second year because of a foot injury, so expectedly he was in no position to be ready to win. After Pippen got there, it still took them 3 years to win an NBA championship, a year Pippen wasn't even an all-star, and MJ was having his most well-rounded season, shooting a career-high 53 field goal percentage, still averaging over 30 points a game, 6 boards, and 5 assists. Of course, as we all know, he led the Bulls to 5 more in the 90s that could have been 10 straight had he not retired twice. In those retired years, Scottie failed to take the Bulls even to the conference finals, practically begging Michael to come back after just 1 year without him. With that said, I understand Scottie's disdain for the position his basketball legacy has been put in, having to forever live in the shadows of what most still consider the greatest basketball player that ever lived. It's a position that he'll never be seen as number 1 like he always wanted to be, even though the rest of the world understands that his game, personality, and history suggests being second fiddle was all Scottie was ever going to be. The woman Scottie has been married to for nearly 2 decades has since moved on to dating her fair share of celebrities, most recently the son of Michael Jordan. Here he lives in Jordan's shadow again, trapped in what could be a forever position. Scottie Pippen, in my opinion, was the greatest number 2 ever because he did all the things Michael wasn't able to do while leading the team, but for these reasons, he hates that life in the shadow of who will forever be number 1. Scottie Pippen was a 6'8" small forward from Hamburg, Arkansas that attended Hamburg High School, where he starred in many positions, mainly as the team's point guard, being just 6'1". By the time he left high school, he didn't receive a scholarship from any big-name schools and had to attend NAIA Central Arkansas as a walk-on. What saved Pippen was he hit an insane growth spurt while in college, growing 6 more inches, which helped him up his averages to 23 points a game, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists his senior year. The NBA took notice, mainly the Chicago Bulls, who traded their 8th pick, a guy named Odin Polynice, and draft picks to the Seattle Sonics, who drafted Pippen 5th overall. Pippen joined the Bulls for the 87-88 season, playing 79 games without a start and averaging 7 points a game in 20 minutes. It took Scottie the next 2 seasons to become a starter, also his first NBA All-Star. Reason number 1, Scottie hates life in the shadows, not being the guy without Jordan.
Scottie Pippen was not involved in that play. He asked out of the play. I left him off the floor.
The biggest reason Scottie hates living in the shadow of Michael Jordan is because although he wishes he did, he never became the caliber player Michael Jordan was, One, because he couldn't with MJ having as good a career he did, and also because while MJ was gone, or Scottie had left the Bulls for other teams, he wasn't the superstar MJ was or got the praise MJ got, because in those years, he couldn't lead his team to a championship, much less deep in the playoffs. He came the closest with the Portland Trail Blazers in 99-2000 when they made it to the Western Conference Finals and lost in 7 games to the Lakers. Pippen on that team was the third leading scorer at 12.5 points a game at 34 years old and didn't lead them in any statistical category. With the Houston Rockets 98-99, he lost in the first round, also the third scoring option at 33 years old. From 2000 to 2003 with the Blazers, he was swept twice in the first round and lost the other in the opening round as well. Back with the Bulls for his final season 03-04, they missed the playoffs entirely, Pippen being 38 years old, only playing 6 games. And who can ever forget the year Michael retired 93-94, where Pippen was still in his prime and just coming off a championship in the biggest spotlight of his career, finally with the opportunity he always wanted, losing in the second round to the Knicks. Game 3 of that series, while trailing 2-0, the Bulls blew a 5-point game with a minute left, allowing the Knicks to tie the game with a second left on the clock. They call a timeout and Coach Phil Jackson draws a play for the unlikely Tony Kukoc, who played 13 minutes that game and had just 8 points. Pippen, with the most selfish move I've ever seen in basketball, refused to check back into the game because the play wasn't for him. Kukoc hit the game-winning shot anyway, and the Bulls won without Scottie on the floor. They eventually lost that series in 7, but Scottie lost respect and he's hated that moment ever since. So it surprises me when he criticizes MJ for not being a team player in a docu-series about MJ's experience when he pulled that off in the moment he had the spotlight on the biggest stage of his career. Jordan, of course, came back to the Bulls the year after, and it took him 18 games and a playoff loss to the Magic before he led his team to 3 straight. Again, cementing Pippen would forever be his sidekick, his Robin, never the main guy or Batman. He never came close to winning without Jordan, and he's showing it's hard living with that.
Phil taking me out of the game. It was like, we exchanged words and I just took a seat.
Reason number 2, Scottie hates life in the shadows because he can change history. Secondly, I think it upsets Pippen even more knowing history will always perceive him as not being what he saw himself as without Jordan. Every time he's ever mentioned, Michael's name has come up at some point, and I'm sure whenever he's involved in conversation about basketball, whoever it is always wants to know behind the scenes information about Michael Jordan. Michael was the greatest of all time. The world knows that, just like they know Scottie was the second option to Michael's greatness. Only person that either doesn't know that or can't live with that is Scottie. I'm sure it upsets him he made the decision not to re-enter the game and be a team player in '94, and it embarrassed him that Kukoc hit the shot anyway, all while he had to pretend to be happy about it, but that happened, and that's the player he was at that point. He'd never been in a situation the world was watching him lose like Jordan dealt with the first 6 years of his career. Losses he took with his head held high and represented the team with dignity. No matter what shot Pippen throws at Michael, the world has that 1994 second round series to refer to know the crybaby Pippen was and obviously still is at 57 years old, and the level of selfishness he's shown his teammates. Say what you want about MJ shooting too much or glorifying himself on his own documentary, but he's never did that to his teammates, and Pippen has. History will never change that. Reason 3, Scottie hates life in the shadows because the world and his girl loves Jordan more. The shots at Jordan has always been something Pippen subtly enjoyed sending, but when I saw him say on Stacey King's Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast that Michael was horrible to play with and only a one-on-one guy who wasn't even that good, I knew there was a deeper reason, or should I say newfound reason, Scottie grew to hate Michael Jordan and his life forever in Jordan's shadow, literally. Not Michael Jeffrey Jordan, but Marcus James Jordan, his son, 32 years old, dating Scottie's ex-wife of 20 years, 49-year-old Larsa Pippen. Larsa, ever since the finalization of their divorce, has been seen with her fair share of other men, notably Future, who many believe his platinum song and hood classic Thought It Was a Drought is about. And now the son of a guy you publicly have been jealous of since who knows at this point. Sadly, the relationship seems serious between Marcus and Larsa, and imagine if somehow the 49-year-old is still capable of having kids, what that'll mean for Pippen. What if Marcus names the child Michael and Larsa wants the child to hyphenate his name, Michael Pippen Jordan? Sandwiching Pippen in the Jordan legacy once again for the rest of time. Some, like Paul Pierce, thinks Pippen has charged that to the game, but that has to pain somewhat. The kid that would come over to visit your home during the summers with his dad is now dating your ex-wife and may take it a step further, being the simp he seems to be, has to sting. All in all, Scottie Pippen is his own man. He's his own legacy. He was one of the best small forwards ever, 6-time champion, Hall of Famer, Olympic gold medalist, and much more. It's sad to see him go out the way he is, taking brick shots at a guy he owes his legacy partly to, in all honesty. MJ was the greatest ever. Someone had to be in the shadow of that, and Pippen was placed in basketball to be that guy. He had success, but is tarnishing it, aiming his misfortunes at the wrong guy. Hall of Famer will never be forgotten, but for these reasons, in my opinion, he hates his life in the shadow of Michael Jordan. Salute, much respect, it's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.